was really selling was the transformation and not the product.
So I'm curious, having learned from these pivots yourself, and then we'll go a little bit further back in time, but what is some of the advice that you would give to other folks in that scenario?
I would say be flexible. Be flexible because you never know what's going to come about. I will tell you, I mentioned briefly that I did have another business before, Bamblu, and what I didn't know at that point was I wasn't part of a community, so I couldn't see what other people were doing when the hard times hit. We were in the middle of a recession, and I had an award-winning business plan. I had everything laid out perfectly, but I never knew what the bottom was going to be. So when the bottom hit and the recession hit, I didn't know how to pivot out of that. So be flexible and be connected, because that's the only way you're going to truly understand what the pivots need to look like. And also being planful for the things that you know about, but expect that there are going to be things that you don't know about.
And I will let everybody know that at the end of our conversation, we'll be opening up the floor for questions. So feel free to keep your minds kind of turning, keep your wheels turning.
I'm ready.
I got you ready, so get ready. All right, so let's talk about this background you mentioned. How did you come to entrepreneurship in the first place, and what does being an entrepreneur mean to you?
So in the first place, I have an accounting degree. So I went to school. As all entrepreneurs, it's either engineering or accounting. So I had an accounting degree, and my first job out of college, I came out of college and I said, well, this is what I want to be, and I'm going to work until I become the CFO of this company. And the first retirement party I went to, I knew it wasn't for me. I said, what? You've been doing this for 30 years? And I was just like, it's not, I knew that there was my whole family is creative, different facets of creativity. And I kept bucking that system because I felt like there was an epitome of success, and it meant that it was going to be working my way up in the ranks in a corporate environment. And when my first taste of it, I knew that it wasn't for me. So I actually went back to school within the first, I think, 3 years after I graduated, and I went back to school for an interior design degree. And I started an interior design firm. That was my first business. I was doing it for everybody for free, so why not? But I knew that I knew that because I had a business degree, I knew that there was a fundamental organization that needed to be at the core of any small business. So for me, it was, I need to legitimize this by having a certification or degree. So I went for the degree route. And then from there, I wrote a business plan that then showed that I could open an interior design gallery where I could offer my services and then also sell furniture and accessories. So I did that. It was beautiful. But then the recession hit. I think it was 1 month from the date that I opened my doors to the recession. So it was a huge eye-opening experience, because my business plan planned for everything, right? I mean, everything was covered. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was like, what's the problem? So then, and I was quite green, because I thought I could do it myself. I thought I didn't need to be I didn't need to continue to be a part of these different organizations. But when everything hit, I was turning to my contractors and asking them, what do I do? And I didn't have a coach or anything that would, kind of give me some guidance. I had people that were telling me, get another loan, and just, buy your way out of it. So, that was the first experience. But the one thing that I remember from that time, I don't regret it. I learned so much from that experience. But the one thing that kept, a resounding note I kept having in my head was how much I loved fabric, and how much I loved being able to create things that, that from nothing, basically, from just some textiles. And I wanted to create a bedding line. But when I closed the doors, this was pretty early on, internet was still pretty, we didn't have as much e-commerce. So I thought when I closed the doors, I was no longer going to be able to build this brand that I could then build a bedding line from. So I let it go. But then e-commerce started to really take. I will tell you what though, I did come up with the idea of selling furniture online before Wayfair. So when I went back, I went back to work, and I just kept saying, I know that I'm here for a purpose. So I kept choosing jobs in corporate that would allow me to see the full function of a business. So every position that I had was, I want the whole pie. And I was doing it from a finance perspective, so I really got to see the numbers, got to understand how we pivoted out of, bad situations and things like that. And then I said, well, let me try marketing, because I need this creativity and I'm not getting it. So I tried marketing, and in that, someone introduced me to an entrepreneurs club. Like, it was just a group of people who, were getting together, learning and educating each other. And I went and I visited that, and I just, the energy, like there's an energy, and Saltbox has that energy. When you go in there, that there's a group of entrepreneurs in there that's thinking and building, and that's the energy that I felt when I walked into this group of entrepreneurs, and that's when I knew it was time to go back. But I couldn't figure out what it was. Like, what am I going to go back and do? And I went back to that idea about the bedding, and I said, okay, well, if I'm going to do bedding, it's not going to be just about fabric. It's not going to be about flowers and polka dots. Like, it has to be something that is solving a problem. So at the same time, I married a trouble sleeper. So my husband, he would stay up all hours of the night because he was sweating, and he was having breakouts from, he was having a reaction to the bedding. And we would change the detergent, change the sheets, change the pillows, change the mattress, and couldn't figure out what it was. And then I thought, let's go back to the bare essence of what fabric should be. Natural fibers, and I found Bamblu, and I put it on the bed. He knew from the minute he got in that it was different. And then the morning he woke up, he was just like, I was cool, I didn't overheat throughout the night, I had a great night's sleep. What is this? And so I said, it's my new product, I'm gonna sell it. So I started, that's where it all started. It was just trying to solve my husband's problems, knowing that I needed a business idea, and I needed one that had a problem solving component to it. It wasn't just about having a business, it was about solving a real problem.
I'm curious, you've talked about, in your previous experience, how you didn't have a community, you didn't have folks around you, and now you've got your business hat on, you've learned the different facets, you've got your problem to solve, you've got a product that you love. Tell me a little bit more about the folks that you're surrounding yourself with for success, whether that's your team or just your community.
Yeah, so I definitely look for my people. Because there's such a different, especially when you're in I have a product, but I'm still a creative. So I definitely look for the community that will understand the weird things that I do as a business owner. The reason why, because you can go to, I could take my idea to a family member or a friend and tell them, oh, I have this idea, I'm gonna leverage some capital to get it done. And they're like, you're gonna get into debt to buy it? No, I'm leveraging capital to get it done. Only a true entrepreneur can understand that. So when I first, like I told you, when I first came back out, I joined a mastermind before I ever had a product, before I ever had a company. I joined a mastermind because I knew that these were thinkers who could understand why it is that I'm going to leave my 6-figure job to go and try something. And I knew that they could kind of show me the way, show me the path that they're taking, and we could all build this thing together. When I started, the group was about 22 people, and we were all very green. And then in a short amount of time, that entire group, and I really feel like it's like, when you bake biscuits and you put them all together and they rise higher, that's what we have. So now we're a group of 150 businesses, and we're all 6, 7, 8 big businesses. These are people who were barely making, I was negative. Because I had nothing, but I was buying websites, I was buying, this, that, and the other one to try to, create this business. I was paying for a mastermind without having a business. So I was truly in the negative, but I knew what it could be. And it was so interesting because although I'm not relying on friends and family to legitimize what I'm doing, I have to justify it to my husband that, this is what's going to happen. So, but he was, he's been very accommodating in terms of just being patient with the business. But I went from concept to launch in 4 months. But that doesn't mean that I was ready, to blow up the way it needed to be. It was concept to launch, pivot. Concept to launch, pivot. So it was constantly trying to reposition the business to the point where it can be successful. And although, I'm making money in the business now and the business, it really has legs, I still have to pivot because I have to keep trying to get out of that corner that, you find yourself in when you put your head down and you're working and then you look up and you're like, oh, damn, I'm in a corner again. So that's kind of, where we are now. But I know that the group that I'm in has created the opportunities for me to be where I am today. Had I not had that group, I could still have Bamblu, and I could still have a business, a successful business, but I wouldn't have done it at the pace that I have been able to do it. I wouldn't have had the opportunities. There were a lot of opportunities that will come to me because I'm a part of an organization or a mastermind of like-minded individuals who are all looking to achieve. You can get into certain groups and, oh, well, she's selling bedding too, so I'm gonna hide my stuff. That's not what we're building here. We're building businesses that are truly gonna change the world. We're building businesses that start with changing our community, start with changing our families and our legacy. So in order to do that, you have to share the information, and you have to be willing to share your information. So.
I love that so much.
Oh, my God.
And I just want to take a minute. Let's just give a round of applause for those figures on the. And now let's dig into one of your pivots. One of your pivots that brought you to us, to Saltbox, right? So
that's a good one.
I think we're all curious about it. So I know that you were working with a fulfillment center when you first you came and you looked at us, but then the time that you actually came to us, came around the bend and saw the light.
I came back crawling.
So tell us a little bit about that. Set the stage for us. What were some of the challenges that you were facing? What was your situation?
So I think when I first came in, I had started talking to a couple of lawyers and things like that. Someone said, "Oh, I have this idea. How are you fulfilling currently?" And I said, "Well, I'm in a storage unit and I'm working out of my house, so kind of making it happen. But I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to scale. This is when I think at this point." Probably August of 19. And I said, well, at this point, I'm looking to scale. I had just did the pivot to create Bamblu. And he said, well, go look at this place called Saltbox. So I went and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. And then just as the pandemic started and they started locking everything down, I pivoted into doing the pre-sales. So where I would have maybe one sale a day, maybe 15 sales a month, I had 375 sales in queue to pack. And I didn't have the product yet, but I knew when that product hits, these people have been waiting, it needs to be packed and shipped. So I was looking at, kind of when were the doors going to open for Saltbox, but I didn't know I knew that there was going to be some opportunity to leverage the team, but I knew I didn't know how to run a team, so I didn't know what it really meant. So when someone came to me and said, "Oh, we have a fulfillment option. We can do 3PL for you," and it was a small business, and I said, "Okay, well, let me try that." So it was legitimately a fork in the road. I could either go the route to go to Saltbox, or I can go to this 3PL, and I thought she knows how to pack stuff. I don't. So like that amount. So I went the 3PL route. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare because I legitimately gave her my business with all of the goodwill that I had grown with my customers, and she didn't know how to handle it. It was evident that having that amount to fulfill in that short amount of time was not her jam, and she hired people without training them, and there was a lot of customer service issues. I stayed with them for 6 months, trying to fix it and trying to do more than I needed to do. It just wasn't the right fit for Bamblu. So when I came back to Saltbox was full. And I was like, what do you mean? It just opened. And like Leslie knows, I called her like, anything, can I set up in the lobby? So she actually, it was very accommodating. She knew that I was serious about it. And I explained to her, I can't continue to run my business this way. So it's either this, or I'm gonna have to bring it back to the storage unit, which at this point I had grown so big, it really wasn't a possibility. So when I actually came, she called me and said, somebody's moving out. I was there like the next day. So I was waiting. I was willing to move into an office, like anything. So I was able to move in and got all my stuff over there, and realized that this isn't just a space. This isn't just 4 walls in your shelves. This was legitimately a plan for success. And I was able to come in. I think at that time, you guys were just kind of standing up the workforce, and it was just like, you can have skilled labor to come in and help you not only ship your products, but organize how your unit is set up so that those products can come out of the unit as organized as the money came in. So, you know, because I was like, these people are paying for this stuff, they want their stuff and they want it right. So, I mean, I learned that Saltbox was not there for, you know, just for the, you know, the money exchange. It was the knowledge exchange. So I became a better business owner by being in Saltbox. I was able to understand how my logistics process needed to work, not just how I thought it should work. And I think that was my fear. Why I took the other 4 was because I was afraid that I didn't know it, so it wasn't going to work if I took it on myself. But going into an organization like that, it's not like you're walking into a warehouse. You're walking into a structured, organized process that you can then apply to your business.
Well, I'm happy that you're happy. Let's get into the weeds. Let's talk about eForce a little bit. How precisely do you use our team and work with our team? Where do we fit in when you're trying to go from vision to execution every step?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I have a strategist now because I'm the visionary. I think you can tell by my personality. Yeah. So I come up with the ideas, and I wasn't executing them well, and I knew that. I would come up with an idea, I would set a plan into motion. If you know, whenever I got the plan rolling, I would have these orders coming in, and I'm like, oh, can somebody come over here? And but what my strategist has done is eForce is part of the plan. So if we have an events calendar, we can look at that events calendar and say, okay, that should generate this amount of sales, that should generate this amount of orders. You're gonna need eForce, you know, and it makes more sense for me to do it that way than for me to hire somebody that's gonna be on staff all the time, trying to find something for them to do when I know I can leverage eForce to come in when they're needed. And eForce comes in with a set of skills that lets me know I can let them come in even if I'm not there. For instance, today I was jam-packed all day, but I knew that I had a sale last weekend, so we filled about 75 orders yesterday. All of them didn't get shipped, but I knew all I had to do was, you know, set the plan. Okay, here's the details on what needs to be done, and I can be gone for that day and know that it's done, it's taken care of. And so when we put our plan into the, you know, we use Monday, we put our plan into Monday, there's always a staffing need line, and that staffing need is always filled with eForce.
That's great. How often do you think you're using eForce?
Right now, probably at least 2 hours a day, every day of the week, except for last week, because I was taking care of my husband. But yeah,
but the unsung hero of our story.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I'll ask him. I was like, I'll read it. Like an article came out, a press release came out, and it talks about my sweaty husband. So,
I'm sure he would be honored.
So I asked him. I said, how does that make you feel? And he's like, oh, oh, it's out there now.
So I'm curious about this, your relationship with Saltbox. As we mentioned, you've been a member of Saltbox longer than many of us, including myself, have been employees. So tell me a little bit about how has Saltbox changed since you've done this?
I would say I came in, I think, during a great time at Saltbox because the processes were set, but they were very flexible. It was, what do you need? What would make you more successful? And to hear that as a business owner, a small business owner that's pretty much doing it on her own, it was just like, oh, thank you. you know, like you guys are really here to know, you know, to understand what I need. And I think that you can legitimately see some of the suggestions that the members make implemented. And you can see that things change based on what, you know, what the customer needs. And that I think is really important to understanding that it's a two-way benefit. It's definitely not, you know, here's what it is and like it or leave it. It's here's what we have a great system set up, but does it work for you? And we can always offer suggestions on things that might work a little bit better and things that may be implemented that don't work. And then it was like, okay, well, we tried that and it didn't work, but you know that your suggestion was taken into consideration and a better idea was implemented, and we can all benefit from it.
Great. Would you be so kind to share some of those suggestions for us now?
Sure. So on the spot. So one of the suggestions that I made was because I got real greedy with e-force, and it was definitely something where I learned, and I think Saltbox learned at the same time. You can't just allow the hours to rack up. You have to monitor it. So when I got a bill that was bigger than any bill I've ever seen, I was like, wait, what happened? And it was just like, okay, well, here's what happened. As opposed to, well, you so go ahead and pay that bill. It was, okay, here's what happened. You booked, e-force, and you didn't track. I didn't track how they were coming in. So if they were starting a process which was moving me from one building to another, and fulfilling all the holiday orders, and counting inventory, all of those things were done at the same time. You can't do that. So, and then what I also realized was that we were telling them to come and do the process, but not telling them to stop at the end of the shift. And they were picking that process up in the morning. So that was a conversation that I had with Saltbox to say, okay, I see where I was wrong. Can we figure out a way to put a process into place where we can monitor what's going on? Mm-hmm. And I know that y'all didn't come up with the solutions app just for me, but it gives you. You can take credit. But it gives me a better opportunity to see what's going on, so that I can then track how I'm doing throughout the month, and then what my numbers are going to look like. I don't have any more of those surprise months. So that was one of those things where I said, I thought the most impressive thing was when I screamed, they screamed. Like, oh, what happened? So, it was definitely a partnership conversation where it was just like, okay, I got a problem. Like, I didn't expect this bill. I know what I did wrong. What can we do better? So definitely one of those opportunities.
Awesome. Well, I think we've talked a lot about where you came from and where you are. And now I'd like to hear what's next. What kind of, what opportunities and challenges do you envision in the year ahead?
Okay, so we have an interesting year coming up. So this year, 22, is the year of the launch. So every quarter, we're launching at least 2 products. And if we can fit in more, we will, but definitely 2. The purpose was when I told Leslie I was looking to get more space, because we were literally tripping over product in my other space. When we got to the new space, I was intimidated when she first showed it to me. I was just like, well, it's so big. I don't need this much space. And then I thought, yes, you do, because you have yet to even touch what this business could do. So I got the space knowing that it was going to be a little bit more than what I needed, but I also realized that now is time to go after those big products that I was shying away from because of lack of space. So we're launching a duvet insert, which is a big comforter thing, and I didn't have the shelf space for it before. So now I have plenty of space for that. We're launching bathrobes, which people have been waiting for a bathrobe, but those are another thing that if you buy into quantity, when I buy quantity. When I buy into something like that, I have to have the space for it, so now I do. So everything, and we're doing chunky knit throws. Oh, they're awesome. So, so the ladies know it. So a chunky knit throw is it's a knit product. It's a knit cover, blanket, or quilt, but it's it's actually hand woven. So you think of like a big piece of yarn, and it's hand woven into a blanket. While mine is actually made out of the same fabric as my pajamas. So it's going to be made from the bamboo tinsel, and it's weighted also. So that also helps you, get their deep sort of. So we're launching that too, and that's in production. The production actually wraps up April 8th. Great. And in the bathrobes, they will launch. They're gonna wrap up April 5th, and we're gonna launch those on the 7th. And they're fabulous. They're everything. So everything that we're launching this year is with the decision that we got that space for a reason. So use it. So everything is gonna happen. And then I also want to increase my cart value. So in order to do that, I have to have products that accompany what I already sell to encourage the bundle.
Awesome. Well, I think we've talked a lot together, and I'd love to take a beat, let you have some water if you want, because I know I've been throwing a lot at you. And we will open to the floor and see what questions folks here have for Angela. And I believe for our other people that are watching, we also, right, Maxwell, you're monitoring. Only 3,000 or so. All right. Any questions? Ben, let's start with you.
So, Saltbox, we talked about this earlier. You shared how you started in bedding. And you already shared how you like expanded into sleep. You rebranded into sleep. But you were sharing earlier about a conversation you had with your coach about moving into sleepwear, pajamas. I'd love for you to share with the group what you learned.
Sure. So I was, I mentioned a little earlier how I was trying to convert customers into this $200 to $250 product, and it was a hard conversion. And I, every time I would go to one of my training sessions, I would tell my coach, I'm like, I cannot get this conversion. I've paid for ads, I've done this, I just can't get the conversion. And by this point, I had already introduced pajamas, and I was selling pajamas like kind of out the back door because bedding was my product. And he said, for every bed set that you sell, sheet set that you sell, how many pajamas would you say you sell? I was like 25 easily. And he was like, bedding is not your product. Pajamas is your product. And I was just like, no. I was completely married to bedding is my product. The margins are better. It's more prestigious. It's more, luxurious. But the reality was that's not what people were coming to me for. So all the effort that I was putting into trying to shove this product into the customer's hands was all for naught because they were coming to me for pajamas. When I shifted that perspective, I put the pajamas first and then the bedding as an upsell, it took off. That's where the company exploded. And that was one of those things where I had to remind myself to listen to the customer. Listen to what the customer is telling you. The customer is telling you that they love your pajamas and that they're here for it. They don't mind spending $50 to $65 for these pajamas. But guess what? When they feel them, they know why they did, and then they believe you when you tell them that the $250 product is worth it.
Question. First off, my wife just said she just purchased her pajamas.
Thank you. I hope she got you some too.
I'm waiting for the vote. Right?
Okay.
Can you say more about just kind of your experience when you were at home and the self-storage situation? Like, what was life like that?
It was lonely.
Yeah.
Because being an entrepreneur is very lonely, right? Like, you can be isolated when you're working from home. So one thing I didn't have was that electricity that I was talking about, that electric feeling that comes from being in a space where there are other entrepreneurs thinking and ideating. So that was important to me. It was also that I was limited by what my eye could see. And so if my eye could only see my office in my home that was now crowded, and it could only see that dark storage unit that I was going in, and I could only get in there until 10 o'clock at night, these are the things that kind of limited how far I could see the business growing. So when I was able to get into Saltbox and then look at the space I'm in, but look at the space across the hall, and then the potential, and then I look at you guys and I see what you're building. I'm like, I'm only limited by what my mind can see now. It's no longer my eye. So it completely changed the perspective of what Bamblu could be, even when it's still considered to be a small business operating as a small business. Even when I came into Saltbox, I was still a solopreneur. Being in this space took me out of the mindset of higher fulfillment, and I'm looking at now, hire the brain power to get the work done because fulfillment is taken care of. Hire the people the things that I can't do, so the strategists. I don't think I would have looked at hiring a strategist had I thought about all the people that I needed to run the fulfillment piece. But I'm able to then divert that attention to that revenue generating position and get it done. So it has completely changed how I look at my business.
Thank you so much for being with us for so long and taking that first step to trust us.
You're not getting rid of me. So.
We want to keep you.
I'm really interested in, when you said you got more space, when you expanded, you could do so much more with your business. What will you need from Saltbox in the future so you can continue to grow?
More space. I've already got my eye on the next location. I already know. But it's definitely more space. I think too. I think at one point I did mention that I felt like there weren't enough eForce members, that we were really taxing the ones that we had. I mean, if if you needed them, you had to get there the break of dawn and, and snatch them up, because it was, everybody got hip to the idea. And then, so I think that was one of the things that I also mentioned on one of our concrete conversations was, you're gonna hire some more people. And then you start seeing the trend, one of the pivots where I think where you all started bringing in temporary workers to kind of weed through and see who could stand up in the organization. I thought that was great, but I see that there are people that are dedicated, like people have their hands on one person and they're like, you can't go anywhere, so so I think that, and I don't know, I can get lost in numbers, so I could sit down and go through the numbers and try to understand what makes sense for me to kind of leverage somebody that I can put my hands on all the time. But I definitely see, as we grow and as people start to understand what Saltbox could do for them as a small business scaling quickly, it's going to be so hard to get that bench strength from eForce because everybody needs it. So that would be one of the things, is just being able to predict the growth so that we can be able to leverage the eForce from here.
I have a related question. How do you think about, so you only have a fulfillment offering now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about, have you considered that? How do you think about that versus what you do today, having your own warehouse suite and eForce?
I'm just going to repeat, just in case, that the question is just, how do you think about our current fulfillment offering that Saltbox also has, and how would that fit within your plans? Is that
why do you choose one of these?
And why one of these?
So I told you about my experience with the 3PL, so I am a little gun shy. But one of the things that I realized in that experience with the 3PL is that Bamblu has a lot of SKUs. Because we do multiple sizes, multiple colors, and we're expanding our product line, we take up a lot of space. So it would be very expensive for me to be in a fulfillment center that wasn't a full warehouse. I would be taking up a lot of real estate. I've toyed with the idea, and I've mentioned the idea of still keeping my space and then having a fulfillment team to come in there. And that way, when I'm off, taking over the world, I know that process is being handled by a team that is very well versed in Bamblu and can run it like a fulfillment center, but utilizing the space that I have. Because I think right now I have over 1,000 SKUs. If I move them all, it becomes very, close to 1,000. If I move them all, it becomes very difficult to manage. And I think that was some of the feedback that I got from the last video.
So the chat is loving your energy.
Hey!
And we have some people very excited about the chunky knit blanket. That is very on trend. So get ready for those pre-orders. I'm curious, what's your favorite product that you sell?
My favorite product, the product that it's my babies, all of them.
That's the top three.
Okay, top three. The number one is the sheets. Because when you get into those sheets, and I am not, look, I'm not only the owner, I'm also a client. So, and my husband, yeah. But when you get into those sheets, you're getting into something special. And you can put them in, put them on the bed, not knowing what it is. The moment you get into them, you know that it's gonna change the way you sleep. So what happens then is that every time you get ready to go to sleep, you're like, yes. I'm about to get in those sheets. So,
New marketing campaign.
so it legitimately changes the way that you go to sleep. So by far my favorite product. My second favorite is the nightgown. And I love the nightgown because it allows you to be free, and like people will tell you it's like sleeping in nothing. That is legitimately how people feel because it's just so comfortable and second skin. It also will regulate your body temperature so that you don't have to worry about being uncomfortable at night. I also love the nightgown because there's no restriction to a nightgown. And I always tell people, if you're more into the shorts, do the shorts. They're another great product that people love because it also allows you to be a little freer. Some people like the long pajamas, but I always tell people that want something that's more restrictive, don't be afraid to go up in size, because if it's pajamas, you don't want to have any type of restriction. But I get so much good feedback from it. People love the feel of it, but they also love what the product does for them. So a big audience that I have is women that are reaching menopause. So you get into a point in life where everything is changing, and you're starting to realize that going to sleep is a battle because you're fighting against your own body trying to overheat at night and keeping you awake. So when you put these pajamas on and the bedding, you don't have to worry about that. It's gonna regulate your temperature. It's also gonna because the body wants to be cool when you sleep. I don't know if people don't usually know that. They want to turn the heat up, but what that means is your body is constantly trying to drop your temperature. So if you put it in something that is regulating its temperature, you can sleep deeper. You're not gonna keep waking. Even though you think you're sleeping, your body is fighting against the heat. So being that all those things, it changes how you sleep. You wake up, you feel more restored. You feel like you've had restorative sleep. You feel better, charged to go about your day. So those are my two top favorite. Now, my favorite line as an owner is the men's pajamas, because I can't keep them in stock. And they love it. And it was so funny that I never intended to sell a men's product because men are hard to sell to. So, because men aren't usually making the decisions, the wife is usually making the decisions.
Because men are difficult.
But so when I did the women's pajamas, I would have men buying it for the wife, or the wife buying it, and they would always come and say, "My husband loves it. My husband loves the way it feels. He wants to know if you have something for men." I'm like, no. Well, Christmas time, 2019, I said, well, let me try it, and it took me months, probably over a year, to ever be able to put a men's product on the shelf because I couldn't keep them in. And it was the women would buy it for the men, and the men would come back and buy every color. And it was just, they were like, I found it, this is it, this is the Holy Grail, I don't need anything else. So I by far, as an owner, business owner, men's products.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's really unique that you were able to kind of pave your own path and rotate through different functions and you learn lots of different things. I'm curious specifically, having the exposure to marketing, like how did you approach marketing for business? How has it changed? What have you learned? Any surprises? Who wants to know about the ad spend?
So repeat the question. I don't know if
have you
you
noticed?
right now.
Have you felt the effects of the changes to Facebook's?
Have I?
All right, so we got a two-part question. First question is, let's talk about marketing, learnings, what some of your initiatives have been, how things have changed, any surprises. Second, particularly related to the changes in Facebook and your advertising, what are your observations there?
Okay, so I've learned a lot about marketing. One, being a part of this mastermind has really made me a marketer, and not only from the perspective of learning it and trying to do it on my own, but also recognizing that I don't have to. Bringing in the people that are, that are professionals in that space is the best thing for my business. Spending the money on marketing is what's going to make the money for the company, hands down. When I first started, I tried ads right away, but I didn't know my audience, and I found out that the person that I hired to help me didn't know my audience either. So it was one of those things where I burned through a lot of money early and didn't have much to show for it. So I kind of soured on it, and I started trying to build out the business without that component, which means I was not feeding the funnel. And to me, the funnel is the beast. You have to feed it. So when I started back on my, spending good money on ads, was 2020, and it was wide open. Like, I was getting legitimately 10 and 12 ROAS. Like, you put $1 in, you're gonna get, like, come on. So I was feeding money, I was pouring money into the business, and it was paying me back. So I think I got a little skewed in what was expected. So when some of the changes started coming and some of the bigger businesses started putting money back in Facebook, it changed the way that my money was coming out. So I started to get a little nervous about it, and I started to try to pull it out. What I had to recognize was that at this point now, I don't need Facebook to convert my customer. I can convert my customer. I talk to them so many different ways. I'm nurturing them all through the funnel. I have a robust SMS strategy, I have a robust email strategy, and I have a very interactive social media strategy. So as long as I could get them on the platform, and I can get their email, and I can get their phone number, I can convert that customer. So I can spend a lot less on it. So in that case, I'm not as affected by the changes. But if I wanted to see what I saw before, which was the customer converting right from the rip, I'm not seeing that anymore, and that hurt. But now, if I could pay a little less money to get a lot more people, and then be able to convert them as I nurture them through the process, it may take a little bit longer for that conversion, but by that point, that customer really knows, likes, and trusts me. I'm gonna probably be able to keep them longer as well.
What's resonated most with your biggest prospects in your marketing or your messaging? What do you think?
What has resonated the most? I think the authenticity of being forefront for the business. Letting the customer get to know who I am. I host a live on Thursdays, and I host it on my website, but I also stream it to Facebook. And the customers just get on, they talk to me. They just want to know what the business is up to. I show them what's in the, what's in the back. Here are some of the samples I'm getting, and this is what I'm working on. I want this to be a little bit more like this. What do you guys think? And I'm thinking about launching this in this color. What do you guys think? And we have those conversations, and the whole time you guys just shop. Go ahead and shop. But and my team always tells me, well, the most engagement we get is when your face is up there, and I do not like the camera. But I know that my customers need that authenticity. There's plenty of people out there selling Bamblu bedding and pajamas. But how many of them are in front of the camera talking to the customer, letting them know that we're here to listen to you and we're implementing some of the changes? There are simple things that I've implemented just based on those calls. And it makes a difference. That customer then calls back and says, I was on your call and I said this and you did it, and I just love that I'm a part of the company, blah, blah, blah. I have a Facebook group where I'll go in and I'll say, hey, welcome to the Bamblu boardroom. We're thinking about launching this. What do you guys think? Can you give me a saying for this pajama top? And they'll, and anybody, whatever the winner is, they'll get a free set of pajamas, and we'll have all kind of conversation. Those get the most engagement. But again, it comes back to that authenticity, that people know that there's a person running this business, and it's the small business that's affected by the things that go on around the world. So when when things happen, I say, hey, I know we said we'd have this new product in, and I did a pre-sale, and you guys all bought in, but there's a logistics issue, and we're not going to get it for another 3 weeks. I hope you guys understand. I'll keep you posted, and those types of things. You get people that are like, I'm here for you. That's all right. We understand what's going on, as opposed to Macy sent you a note. They may, curse the screen because they don't know who's sending them that note. But Angela just said that, she's gonna make it right, and they believe me.
You're a natural at the camera, so.
Oh, thank you. Look, you turn it on and I'm good. But the minute, leading up to it, I'm like, oh God.
Oh, hi, yeah. How do you think about sourcing the manufacturers for your products?
So that was probably the most interesting and foreign, legitimately, component of starting the business, was trying to project, across the seas that I'm a legitimate business and I know what I'm talking about. But what I did was I went to several companies and I talked to them from the perspective of, hey, I want to try you out. I want to test your system. I want to test your logistics process. Send me a small order so that we can see if we can work together. And that gave me an opportunity to learn what they needed in order to get a clear order, and then what I needed as far as what they were able to produce for me. So I did that with a couple of different manufacturers, And then I narrowed it down to this one does my bedding, this one does my pajamas, this one does my accessories and accessory products, this one does my bags. So I narrowed it down so I'm not getting stuff from everybody. I want to make sure that the quality is what my customers expect. Now, there comes a time where you have to start to look at, okay, this manufacturer is not hitting the mark on the shipping. It's become a problem. It's then becoming a customer service problem. I have to find somebody else. Now I have to see if this company can produce Bamblu quality products. So now I'm doing a different dance. Before it was just find the product and give them as much information to make it my product as I can. Now it's I've established what my product is. My customers know and love what the product is. Can you produce the same thing for me and not have the issues that this company is having?
When you're talking or describing Saltbox to family or friends or other entrepreneurs, where do you start? How do you describe Saltbox?
I would say I'm in a very unique situation. And it's funny because it always comes back to that. I'll talk to people who have their own, warehouse, and they're fighting through all the challenges that come with that. And then I have people that are doing it out of their homes, and I have a story for both of them. I have a story of how I needed to be able to scale the business, and I didn't have the knowledge or know-how to run it myself. And so I found this idea, and just like you would go, I would say, well, just like you would go to WeWork, we have this for the company class. That's what we call ourselves. So, so being able to do that, explain to them how I'm able to do what I do. One, they look at Bamblu, and Bamblu gets a lot of respect in these entrepreneur streets. And one of the things is that I make decisions with the idea that the company's going to scale. And because I'm making these decisions, they respect the changes that I make in the business and the ideas that I come to the table with. So we had a new class of entrepreneurs come into our cohort, and only about 10 of them have come to Bamblu warehouse just to see the operation and how it's set up, because they're impressed with the way that I'm able to work it. A lot of them, they stress about hiring, they stress about just the systems, putting the systems in place. So when I'm telling them that I'm scaling this system at my speed because of the facility that I'm in, it makes a difference. So I have a lot of them that aren't from here, from the Atlanta area, and they're looking like, okay, what cities are they in? I'll keep you posted. But yeah, that Alexandria location has got some eyes on it. So.
Can you tell us a time where we didn't live up to our promise? We messed something up, but we disappointed you, and then so how do we respond?
Not that I had it on the tip of my tongue.
On the spot.
I would say it's probably an E-Force thing again, where there was I think that there was an issue with not having full control of the system. Okay. So I would go in and I would reserve someone that wasn't there. And I would have, and like I told you, when I plan out an event, I plan it with the expectation that I'm going to be able to have E-Force to come in and back me up on the fulfillment. And I would put time in, expecting that somebody was going to be there at that time. And a couple of times they didn't show up, and I was just like, okay, wait, we need to talk about, well, why would somebody's name be in here if they're not going to be working? Because it really does change how I come into business. If I'm coming in for a day and I don't have somebody, I know I got to come in at a certain time to be able to work these orders to get them out. If I come in with the expectation that I've already reserved somebody to come in and start the process and they never showed, it changes how my day is going to be, how my day is going to roll. Probably changes how a couple of days are going to roll because I have to do it myself. So we talked about that, and like I said, I don't think you changed the whole system for me, but I was able to, which I'm very grateful for, give a lot of feedback on the new system and how it's set up and how you're able to access the people in the system.
Awesome. We actually, I think Brent had a question.
So first, customer bought the sheets. Love them. I am a warm sleeper.
I'm so happy we can
Not
help.
my husband, of what he may or may not be, but I am a miracles. One of the things you talked about authenticity and how important that is to your brand. I woke up in my hotel this morning and the hotel owner tried to upsell me on the sheets, and I'm like, I don't need them. I got better ones at home. When it comes to like retail partnerships or like a brand partnership with either like a hotel chain or a wholesale provider, is that ever anything that you think about, or does that take away from that authenticity, that mission that you mentioned?
Well, we got here to make money, so. Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm actually, that's another area that I need more bench strength in, because I'm writing capability statements to be able to get into some of these hotel brands. I'm looking at, being a part of their elite line, not just the, and if I do go into a hotel chain, my intent is to bring it under another name. So that way I can supply what is appropriate for a hotel, because Bamblu is not. Bamblu needs to be laundered at certain temperatures, and hotels need to launder at a much higher temperature. So I would come in with another line that would satisfy that customer, but that is my goal. As soon as I'm able to get the capability statement that works, I'm in. And I'm also working to get back into, I was in Macy's when I first transitioned and created Bamblu. I went into Macy's in their Market at Macy's program. Loved it, learned a lot from it, and then Macy's came back and asked me to come on as a wholesaler. So now we're looking at how do we transition into that, but they want me to come in with the pajamas. So as I'm changing my pajama line, I need to consider that it could be a wholesale product.
And again, Tyler?
I have a built-up list of questions. All right, first question is, you used the term concrete plan. So I'm curious, like, if you like that term, and what does it mean to you? That's one question.
I love it. I love it because it really explains who I am. I think when you think about some of the different co-working spaces, they're not set up for us. And it was hard for people to understand why it's not set up for us. And it's because we are the ones who show up to work in our sweats and our t-shirts and our beat down sneakers, because we have to test and process work on the computer. A lot of people were doing that and getting a warehouse space. If I could have all my stuff in one space where I'm able to, where I'm able to work the product and work the business in the same space, that's completely different. It changes how I go to work. One, it's going to reduce the cost because I don't have to pay for a space and a space. And then two, it's also going to allow me to be around others who are creating in the same thing that I'm creating it. They're dealing with the same logistics issues that I'm dealing with. They're dealing with the same sourcing issues that I'm dealing with, as opposed to another business owner that may have, may not have a product, they may have a service. Their challenges are different. So although I may get some good business tips from them, I probably am not going to learn how to navigate the shippers, better by hanging with them. So I definitely feel like there was a term that was needed, product-based. We get that. But when you say concrete class, I'm here to work. Like, this is.
That's awesome. Okay. And second question is, one of the stories that we tell ourselves is that we effectively are, earning the right to solve, future logistics problems, needs you may have, even if you don't know what they are yet necessarily. And I'm just wondering if that's, rings true to you. Like, if Macy's says, hey, you gotta do X, Y, and Z, are you gonna ask us or not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been witness to what Brea with Shinery is experiencing with being able to be on some of these national talk shows and selling through high quantities, and then having eForce to come in and shore up her commitment. That's huge, because a lot of times people will have these big dreams and create a process that allows them to sell big, but they can't deliver. That can make or break a business. You have some people that go into some of these high processing wholesale deals. The wholesaler will tell them, you can't handle us. You can't handle us, so we will not do business with you. But if you go in and you show them what the capability is based on the bench strength of Saltbox versus the bench strength of Angela, it changes how I go to the table.
So, similar question, but aside from more space, is there, when you look at what Saltbox is not doing for your business now that maybe you wish it did, do you have anything comes to mind?
A driver, if you can come pick me up. No, I like what we did, Tyler, when you offered the office hours.
Yeah.
I thought that was imperative for those who don't have the connection. I have a very strong connection with my mastermind, so I get a lot of that, but having someone that has the vision that you have was a great conversation for me. I think having something like that, for the members is a great add. And then also, you guys have done a lot in terms of capital and being able to raise funding. So what does that look like for a business like mine? Can that be a conversation that we have? One of the conversations that we have with the concrete classified conversation. Doing things like that and getting people to understand. One of the things that I talked about, I had a talk this morning with some high school students where I was talking to them about misconceptions of entrepreneurship, and one of them is leverage. A lot of people will look at, I'm doing this and I have no debt. It's not debt if you're making money off of it. So, can we have more conversations like that? Those are real gritty conversations, but I think they're necessary in order to scale. I would rather leverage money to buy inventory and then flip it and then pay that money back, as opposed to taking all the revenues that I have and putting it into inventory. And that's just a scaling conversation, and it's a mindset shift that I think a lot of small businesses need to be exposed to.
I'm asking a dangerous question.
Oh.
Internally dangerous. For you, internally dangerous. There are this question. So we use the term member, and then we've had internal struggles as we grow about the difference between member and customer. Are you drawn to the term member? Does that mean anything to you? And if we switch to the word customer, how would that sort of resonate with you? Right? Does the word member mean something to you specifically? Do you have some attachment to it? Do you use it just because we say it? And or does that actually feel like something versus the word customer?
I think it has a bit more prestige than customer, but I also feel like I use member when I'm talking to y'all, but I use founder when I'm talking to people about the people that operate the space. And I think that, I think that to me, the fact that we're a group of founders really makes a difference, because we're all in there with big hopes, dreams, and goals. So that's a founder, and that really takes space. I think if I was talking to other people about the people that I share space with, I wouldn't use member. I'm not sure I would use customer, but I would probably say founder.
Thank you.
Angela, I love your whole story, especially about, you were in accounting, you come from accounting, you went to marketing classes, you really thought about what education and leverage are you going to get for yourself in order to be a business owner. And I think something that we've noticed that COVID has done for a lot of people is this big dream that I had for a really long time, I finally want to start doing it. What advice do you have for those people that have the big dream and just don't know where to start?
The people that have the big dream and don't know where to start, I always tell them to get connected. Get connected. Community is everything. And even if it's community in building your business, it's also community in starting a business. And there's a lot of online access just from social media. And people think, social media is just for the gossip and things like that. But you can go and you can search for groups that have the same industry that you want to get into. There are a lot of free groups on social media where people are just talking and ideating and just coming up with what's best for them. It also gives you an opportunity to see who's teaching, because I'm a student, I'm a forever student, and so I'm always looking for somebody that's going to teach me something new. But I feel like I would trust that person more had I gotten an opportunity to see what they're talking about on social media. And if they have built a group or they've built a community of their own and they're offering real real world experience and they're offering things that could really move the needle for me, I'm more apt to pay that person to then take it higher. And I think that a lot of people miss that opportunity because they think, oh, social media is just for the gossip, it's just for the, frivolous connection. But there are a lot of connections that I've made through social media and then brought it onto, real land. Because I'm able to, kind of qualify that person through the social media channels.
I think we've got time for one more question. Anyone would like to ask it? All right, Stacey, close us out.
What has been the most surreal moment while you've been on this journey with family?
I think what's surreal for me is still when I'm in public and someone realizes that I own Bamblu and they know me. Like to me, it's just like, and it's always, I always get the same response. I love your product. Your product is awesome. I'm like humbled because I did it for, I didn't do it for the notoriety. I didn't do it for the popularity. I did it because it was necessary, and I truly want to impact how people get their rest and relaxation. And for me to be able to have created a business from this that's really impacting people, that really makes a difference, it humbles me every time I hear it. I went to Cabo last week and it was all the businesses, it was a bunch of us, so 100, we kept saying there's $100 million on this beach. So, and I promise you, of all the people that were there, I'd say about 75% of those people were my customers. And I was just like, man, I was like, those are my husband, like, you see this? But it's humbling to me, and I'll continue to do the work from a humble perspective because I know that it keeps my customer first.
Well, we are humbled. We are honored to have you, joining us here today. We're honored to have you as a member joining us every day. We've got a small token, a little box of Saltbox, so you can continue to spread the gospel as you do. So
and I do. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. I hope you really enjoyed this, and over and out. Have a great day.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much.